Today we're going to look at Blaster and Steeljaw from the Transformers Generations line. This figure is based on Blaster from the Fall of Cybertron computer game. The figure itself is actually a sort of recolor and slightly different sculpt on the face and body of Soundwave and Sound Blaster. It comes with Steeljaw, the Cybertronian data disc cassette, as you can see at the top there. This is the Japanese release, so information on the box is hard for me to understand. There are pictures of the other figures in the collection, but I can't actually read the data or specs of the figure. As you can see from the front of the box, this is a figure for the 30th anniversary of Transformers. There's a small logo there. These Japanese boxes are the ones I prefer to get, just because it's nice to have a little bit of a different set of packaging to the standard sort of UK and US releases. This figure has a transformer skill of 3, so it's a sort of medium level one, and having already reviewed Sound Blaster, which is the same figure, it's actually, after the first couple of transforms, it's fairly easy to do, so this shouldn't be too much of a problem to transform. So let's get him out of the package and we'll see what he looks like. Okay, so first impressions now that we've got Blaster and Steeljaw out of the box is that they actually look really good. The sculpt on Blaster is, well, it is the same as Soundwave for the most part, but there are a few sort of key differences that differentiate him. I think the paint scheme on this one is a nicer one than the Soundwave one, just because there's a nice lot of variation in the colour. The sculpt of his face is excellent. He's got a sort of jaunty little look to his face, which is pretty nice, and I like the way that they've kept the detailing of a sort of tape deck on at the front of his chest there. Also on the wheels of this guy, you can see there's a sort of representation of an Autobot logo in the centre of the wheel hub, which is pretty nice. The Sound Blaster one doesn't have that, so that's quite a nice difference there. Let's have a look, and it's even on the small wheels at the front, so that's going to be quite a nice feature once we transform him. He's also quite a sturdy, sort of well-balanced figure, so he looks pretty good posed up, and there's enough sort of articulation there that you can pose him and move him into some pretty good positions, which makes it nice as well, because it's better than just having them standing around straight. So that's overall, he's a pretty nice figure. It is just a sort of recolor on the most part. The minor differences are pretty easy to spot, as I say, the wheels, the face and the chest front. Otherwise everything else is pretty much the same as Soundwave and Sound Blaster. So let's now take a look at Steeljaw. Steeljaw is a bit of a sort of a resculpt of Ravage. If I eject, sort of transform him now from the Cybertronian data disc version, which you can do, there's a button on the bottom, so if you just put him on the ground, let me just move the camera so you can see this, and press him, he jumps out and transforms. These animal ones don't transform particularly well. You have to sort of flick out little bits of them to do the sort of final parts of the transformation. Some of the other data discs just flip out and are immediately in their sort of alt modes. So there you go, that's what Steeljaw looks like, but he is essentially Ravage with a different head and slightly different front body. If I have Ravage here, so let's transform him. I can show you the two together. Again, just needs a little bit of transformation. There we go. So if we hold these side by side, you can see that the bulk of them, apart from the colour scheme, is the same. The only difference is that Steeljaw has the lion's head on the front, and also, if you can see, there's a subtle difference in the shoulders. There's a bit of a spike here on Steeljaw's, whereas Ravage is fairly flat. But you know, it's a reasonable figure. It's not my favourite of the data discs, but it doesn't look too bad. I still prefer the vintage original version, but he sort of does the job. The main thing I like about these toys is the fact that if we take a look at Blaster's front, the chest area, once you do the ejection part, the chest area can hold more than one data disc. So if I push that back, you can see there's space for at least four data discs to go in his chest. That's a nice feature that the vintage ones never had. So it's a good way of storing figures and keeping them safe. Right, let's get on and we'll show you the full transformation of Blaster into his alt vehicle mode. Okay, the sheet that comes with this transform is a fairly hefty one. It's got a lot of information on it. It's actually a reasonably easy transformation once you've done it a couple of times. The first few times there are some fiddly features to it which make it a little bit annoying, and it can get a bit frustrating, but overall it's a pretty straightforward transformation. So let me show you how to do it. First up, let's remove his blaster from his hand. It's a nice easy job there. And the first thing to do is get the arms and everything sorted out. You fold his hands in place, like so they're back hidden in the wrists. Do that on both sides, and then these shoulder sections form the front part of the vehicle. So what you need to do is rotate the wheels forwards, and then you can twist these around, and there's a shoulder bit here that you have to just sort of hook back down, and then these shoulders actually clip in place. There's a small hole there. It's pretty straightforward to do that on both sides. And then the sort of back parts of the shoulders now can clip over and hide Blaster's head, so he's fully hidden there. And then these the wrist sections just rotate forwards and sit in place like that. Fairly straightforward and pretty actually obvious what you can do. This back panel now forms the top part of the car mode, so you rotate this about until it sort of fits up, so it's about that, and then that can slide in place. Pretty straightforward. And now it's just the legs, again very easy to do. You rotate the sort of side parts around so that they are up the other way, fold his feet back on themselves, so we do this for both sides. You can do this all in one go. Like so. Then his pelvis unclips, and you can rotate this whole section up, and it will clip in place there, and then just rotate his legs in, and again they do clip in place. This is the bit I've often found a little bit fiddly, because they don't seem to want to clip. Actually, that one's just done it. It's a little bit sort of cheap and plasticky, that portion of it, so it's not as easy as it should be. And there we go, that's the transformation complete. It does say to rotate this front panel out slightly and keep it at an angle, but that tends to sort of just fall away. That doesn't really want to stay where it should. Blaster's gun also can fit on the top there. So there we have the alt mode. It's not the greatest of alt modes. I think I said this for the Sound Blaster version of this toy. The alt mode is actually a bit of a letdown. The robot mode looks great and is sort of very posable. This alt mode, I don't know, for me it doesn't do anything for me. You can still eject the front portion to get the Cybertron data discs in, so let me just do that. As you can see there, you can fit them snugly in the front. But that's the only feature this alt mode has. It's just, I don't know, it doesn't do it for me. It's too plain. It doesn't really look like anything. It's just a sort of an oblong-y cube thing with some wheels, and nothing really fits together that nicely. It's all a bit flimsy and wants to sort of come apart. So I think this is the worst part of this toy. Robot mode looks great. This alt mode looks a bit naff. So let's go and I'll transform him back to robot mode, and we'll take one final look at the figure. So here we have Blaster and Sound Blaster together, so you can take a look and see how similar they are. As you can see, overall it is essentially the same figure. The only differences between the two are the chest plate has been modified, new head for both, and also the wheels are different on either. So Sound Blaster has the pink wheels with no emblems, and Blaster has these black wheels which have the small Autobot logo inside them. Overall, this figure for me looks far better in robot mode than it does in alt mode. The alt mode is just too clunky and just doesn't look like anything. These figures do look pretty good when on display. They do suffer a little bit from being a sort of tad cheap around the edges. Some of the plastic feels very plasticky, and the transformations are a little bit sort of flimsy and feel like they're going to break in some areas, but you know, that's goes for most of these modern Transformers. Overall, I still think Sound Blaster looks far better. There's something about the dark paintwork that sort of makes him stand out, and also Sound Blaster's face, the Soundwave face, just looks a little bit meaner. Blaster, on the other hand, is fairly sort of happy and bright colours, but you know, it's not too bad. These figures are definitely worth picking up. There's some of the better ones that have been released recently, and in my mind, there are some of the better ones to come from the Fall of Cybertron game as well. The only other one that really stands out is the Grimlock figure. So overall, though, very nice, and I would highly recommend getting these if you see them. Thanks for watching.